Hello there and welcome to Live Music and Me, a series of music podcasts where we get some of our friends to come on and talk about their gig memories. On today's podcast, our guest was the comedian and writer Jo Caulfield. We hadn't actually met Jo before. We've been trying to make this conversation happen for a while, so it was really good that we managed to set that up today. Jo was in top form. We did all the usual gig stuff. We also managed to talk a bit about CND marches. Jo was kind enough to give us what she thought was her worst performance as a comedian at a gig. And we also managed, for the first and only time, I'm sure, to get a reference to the Bluberry Hellbellies, the cowpunk band, into the music chat, which I'm sure will never happen again. She's very busy, Jo, does a lot of gigging, and we were really grateful that she took the time to come and join us. And I'm sure you'll enjoy it when you get the chance to listen. All the best now. Stay safe. Jo, good morning. How are we?
I'm good. I'm good. I've had a lovely trip down memory lane thinking of stuff
Oh,
from the
good.
past of music. Yeah.
Not too painful, I hope.
No, no,
No.
but that weird certain things where I go, I'm there are weird. Oh, this is getting straight into it, but there are weird memories.
Yeah.
Like you'd asked, like your first ever gig, and I thought. So my teenage years, I'm probably about the same age as you. Well, I don't know. I'm 61.
Okay.
So I feel, but maybe everyone feels that. I think I was like 15, 16 at about the best time for music, like 78, 79, 80, 81. Oh my, so much going on. And then I remember that I was thinking like the first live band I saw, unfortunately, my teenage years also were when my dad had he was in the Air Force, he'd left. So we were then lived in a village in the middle of nowhere between Nottingham and Leicester. They were the big cities, but there
Okay.
really was nothing and there was no transport, but there was a village hall disco. And I remember going there and there was a punk band on, local band called Amber Squad. And they were
Right.
like local celebrities, and a couple of years older than us, right?
Yep.
But I also remember the music, and that's what's so funny to me that it was such a clear image. I remember hearing the Human League being boiled and going, "What
Wow.
is this? This is
Mm.
incredible. I haven't heard anything like this." Talking Heads, and I remember Brass in Pocket being played, and I was like, right, what is this? And that was such a clear memory that I felt like I'd seen the Pretenders. And I was like, no, I have never seen the Pretenders. This was just a village hall. And then at the same time, because they had to cater to everybody, so they were sort of playing punk, they played new wave. They also played Odyssey, Chic, Motown was very popular at
Mm.
that time as well. Jimmy Mac, I remember that being a massive hit
Mm.
that everybody would dance to. So it was that thing of going, and we had just moved to that area as well. Like I'd been in a convent school before that, and now I was
Okay.
going to the comprehensive, suddenly hearing all this music. But I think it was a good intro because I was hearing every kind of music except for what I didn't like, and I didn't like those people.
Yeah.
There were certain guys who were into more status quo heavy metal, and we were like, no, we are not those people. So
Okay.
I very quickly made right, I'm not those. I'm over here where it's really eclectic and weird, and more, yeah, just you're more accepting of stuff. And I also very cleverly made friends. I didn't know that was clever at the time, but I made friends with this guy, Adam, who's still one of my best friends. And he was a couple of years older and he had a car. And he was also gay, but in a village in Rutland at that
Mm.
time, you didn't know that.
Hmm.
He didn't know that really.
Hmm.
He just knew that he was really interested in David Bowie, Lou Reed,
Yeah.
Bauhaus. There was lots of things that and he was a good way into finding out this new kind of music and new scene. But it meant that we could go to Rock City in Nottingham,
Okay. Yep.
which
Know
was a
that.
great venue. But then my memory is so terrible that I can remember who I saw, but to me it's like all one bill. I can't remember who was on when. I remember that we saw Susie and the Banshees because that was quite early because Hong Kong Garden was out, and I couldn't believe that you could actually go and see the people that made that record.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
seemed
I get that. So,
incredible to me. Yeah.
so who was your first gig then? Do you know?
It could have been Susie and the Banshees, but that would have been at the Montford Hall in Leicester,
Yep.
not a Rock City. And then Rock City, I remember going to see, and there's people that you like at the time. Duran Duran were playing. Didn't like them at all. I was like,
Yeah.
what is this? Didn't like their hair. They had quite big sort of hair like Poison or one of those kind
They
of
did,
bands.
yeah. Yeah.
And they were probably a bit still Birmingham-y, a bit
Yeah.
sort of bit heavy metal Birmingham looking. And
Yeah.
we were like, oh, we don't like, I wrote them off straight away. Well, I don't like the look of them at all. And then it was going to see, so we saw quite a lot there, saw Kraftwerk there.
Wow.
And again, that was in my head that I thought, they are such a clear image. I actually looked it up. So I thought, I must have actually seen them. And I like Kraftwerk, we were
Yeah,
into
me
that.
too.
And I remember hearing Tubeway Army, our friend's Electric, on top of the pops and going, oh, that sound, what is that?
Yeah.
And then we saw Gary Newman there. At Kraftwerk, I actually looked it up, and it was June 81, and I left home in August 81. So so I did see that Rock City, because you can sort of see who was on places. But it was always about, could you get to places to see bands? Or the other thing where you could see bands was to go on a march. If someone was taking a van to London, and that's what I did on a CND march, and we saw the Killing Joke and the pop group. I remember they were on, I think a certain ratio were on. And so you obviously pretended I had really no idea about CND, but what I was interested in was being in the van where you drank cider all the way down, and then you got there and there would be bands and sort of like-minded people would be there, So that was a sort of...
So what do you reckon then? Would that be like late 70s, your first gig then, about that time? Or
Yeah, I think it would have been early...
because like
Hong Kong
Susie and the
was that
Banshees,
79? Early,
79, I would say, about
Yeah, probably was, Apart from the Amber Squad, who I'm not going to discount, who are obviously, but I just remember them being punk and loud, but I like the idea of the stage setup. That's what I was interested in.
Yeah.
So, so they're just right there, and there's a drummer, and there's this and that. It was to see it close up was interesting. That's what a band is.
Yeah, I mean, they're always like any live gig's fascinating. There's so many dynamics going on, isn't there? That it's very hard to
also,
just go to a bad gig. I think there's always
and
something
at
to
that
take
time, not having much access
Yeah.
to live gigs, a lot of it was what I remember hearing the B-52s for the first time at a party, because again, that blew my mind. I heard Rock Lobster, and I was like, and I saw what they looked like as well. And they were amazing. They were sort of 50s kitsch, 60s-y, and I was like, I like these people.
Yeah.
And then I saw them, because again, my friend Adam, they were on in Hammersmith Palais in London. I was still at school, and I knew I wouldn't be allowed to go, so I didn't ask to go. Like my mum and dad would have said, no, you can't go to London on a school night.
Yeah.
Right, you can't go to London anyway.
Yeah.
So I didn't ask. I just said we were going to a gig, and we drove to London and went to see them. And then I remember us not getting back. I didn't know how far away London was. I didn't realise we wouldn't get back till 3 a.m.
Would that be the gig that you travelled the furthest to get to then?
At that point,
At that point, it was. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember because them and Pearl Harbor was supporting, and the Au Pairs.
Okay.
And also thought that Hammersmith Palais was one of the best venues I'd been to at that time. I loved it. Yeah.
Cool venue. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got about 79 for Susie, roughly.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And then a bunch of other stuff around that time.
Yeah.
Including
That's
the village,
very confused in my head.
Yeah, including the Village Hall stuff. What about Whizzing Forward then? So what about your last gig?
Last gig was Friday. This Friday just gone. Went to see Pete Wiley in Edinburgh at the Voodoo Rooms.
Oh, okay.
And it was great. And it's a venue alike as well.
Yeah, good
Voodoo
venue.
Rooms. And I've sort of, this is the sort of joy know social media has a lot of bad things, but has a lot of good things in it.
It
It
does.
connects you with people, doesn't it?
It does
No, I
indeed.
mean, we're
Yeah.
connected through
Yeah.
social media. And Pete Wiley had sort of connected through sort of politics as well as music on social media. So went to see him, and also I think it's nice if you can push other people's gigs. So I always say where I'm going in case
Yeah,
it makes
totally.
somebody else go, oh, I didn't know they were playing, I'll get a ticket. So several people have said, oh, well, I'm also going. So then you have that thing of meeting other people at the gig. And he's great. He's got a whole new band of children
Right.
now with him, who were fantastic.
Yeah.
And his voice is great, and I've always loved the songs. And he did the album Songs of Strength and Heartbreak,
Yep.
and but he starts with Come Back, which is fantastic, and he
Yeah.
ends obviously with Story of the Blues, and I thought, well, I'll film a bit at some point so I can put it up. But I wasn't filming when he went, oh, shout out, this one's for my mate Jo Caulfield. I was like,
Oh,
and did Sinful, of course.
yeah, of course.
Because I said, what's my song? Because it goes, Hey Joe. So it was great. It was a real, and he's, there was a lot of chat in between. And also that funny thing where you get at gigs because a lot of gigs are earlier now, and I think maybe Pete isn't aware of the bus timetables around the Edinburgh region, because there was a point where he's going, you're all a bit shifty, and people going, it's the buses, we've got to get our buses, So
That's what happens when you get an older crowd, isn't it?
Totally,
all
yeah.
the practicalities.
We want to use our free bus pass, so that was a funny thing to learn about sometimes. Because funnily enough, the very next night, Saturday night, when I was gigging in this place, and I did over my time because I was really enjoying it and the audience were with me.
Yeah.
And I heard some talking, and it made me, I think you learn from every performance you see. I thought, I've gone on longer. They've probably ordered a taxi or something for 10:30, and I've gone on longer, and that's what they're discussing. So don't yell at them, because that's what happens if you overstay. I won't say I've stayed my welcome, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
that
when you're
was the
enjoying
last
it's that
thing.
balance as an artist. You want if you're enjoying it, you want to keep doing it, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you've got it's that thing of also of control. I do, which is the great thing about live performance is you learn, like I say, from everything. Because I've got to go, right, I can be enjoying myself, but it's not about me enjoying myself. So it's having that always, unfortunately, I go, oh, now I've got to be a bit more controlled,
Yeah.
rein it in so that they have a better time. And
Yeah.
also, do that thing of leave people wanting, don't have them go, oh, she was really getting great, and then we got a bit tired.
Yeah, I get that totally.
Yeah.
We saw Neil Young maybe, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago maybe at the
Right,
Hydro in Glasgow, and it was a Sunday night, and I'd never seen him before, so it was quite a big thing to see him. And he burst the curfew that
right.
night and played till about 20 past 11
Yeah,
approximately, and we all had to get Ubers home.
yeah.
But it was like the best 60 quid we've ever spent, you know.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's such a special occasion,
Yeah.
you just want to max it out, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, and that becomes like a happening for people there, then,
Totally,
doesn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
totally.
yeah.
But
And
you're
we're
right,
like,
you're right about the
it's
balance between that
illicit.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's one of the questions actually is about
Oh,
missing the last bus and stuff like that. So we'll come on to that. So you mentioned about traveling to London, back of the van, cider, CND gigs and stuff, which is a fair journey from around the Midlands. Is there anywhere you went further than that for a gig?
yeah. I mean, recently, actually, after we've travelled twice to see the Stranglers,
Okay.
and I would say this is just because you have the time and the money to do it now that I'm old. So we went to see them in Valencia, which is a city I really like, and we were just looking and went, fuck it, let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go to Valencia. And it was also quite fun to go because they're playing venues that are a sort of size that I like as well. It's about 1,000. It's not massive.
Right. Yeah.
And so it was a funny place on the outskirts, like an industrial estate. But the venue was great. I can't remember what it was called now. And very Spanish because there was the music where the music was, and then the back doors just opened out into an outside bar. So it was that lovely thing of going, oh, we can go
Yeah.
outside, and then come back in. And then when the gig was over, the Stranglers are great for oldies as well because they play their set and they're done.
Yeah.
There's no support. You know when they're going to start and they end, and that's it, and we all get home. And also that brilliant thing of when it's in Spain of going, oh, we can go on now and have some food and drink and carry on the evening.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, going out sometimes in places you're like, well, especially London is terrible for that. You go, oh, that's it, we're done. It's 11 o'clock, we're done.
Yeah.
You know, so that was nice. And then we went to see them in Amsterdam as well, in a place that used to be some sort of factory. It's called the Melkweg or something like that, in the centre of town. And it's a really good venue, nice old building. So it was some sort of factory or brewery or something. And there's two rooms. There's the big live room and then there's a club room. And when we went along with our tickets and we were going, oh, there's two queues. I wonder which queue we'll be in. And one queue was from the club. And I can't believe my husband was going, I wonder which queue it is. I went, well, this queue is all girls in their 20s. And this queue, they all look like you. So I think it'll be this queue that we're in.
Very good. And you were right, of course.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No doubt. Yeah.
Well, Valencia's a fair journey for a gig. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Cracking city as well. You're right.
Oh, it's a great city, isn't it? Yeah. It's got
really
everything.
Cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. All right. Great. Okay. What about first gig with a partner?
Oh, that was, I don't know if this is an ideal gig to go to with your partner when I was thinking about it. I can't, maybe it's even 25 years ago. Lou Reed performed Berlin, the whole album with the choir at Hammersmith Odeon. We were still living in London then, and went to see it. But I was like, I don't know how romantic this is. It's about two drug addicts who destroy each other, and I think one of them dies, and they split up.
That's right. Yeah.
And it was also that very Lou Reed, where people would shout a song, and Lou Reed just went, I'm doing the album. I'll get there. Which, just always cantankerous.
Yeah.
And even like my husband really liked it. And they had a choir. The choir did sound good actually, but he did that thing of not singing the tune, so he was, and Lou Reed, let's be honest, he can only sing one way. So I thought, you're not a person to experiment with, doing a jazzy offbeat, just sing the fucking tune. But my husband like, oh, it's interesting because he's not singing the tune. And I'm just sitting there furious that he's not singing the tune.
Yeah, it's a bit like Dylan, isn't it? Who likes having a bit of fun now with his back catalogue. I suppose they've kind of earned the right a little bit, haven't they?
I think they've completely earned the right, and they can do it. And I don't think you have any just because you bought a ticket. I don't think. But at the same time, I wouldn't do it because I would go, you don't know how much somebody had to save to buy that ticket. So in a way, I think you give them what they are expecting or want. But sometimes, we don't know what we want because if you give us something different, we go, oh, love that. I'm glad that you did that.
So, absolutely.
Of course, the artists have the right, but sometimes it's annoying, and you go, oh, no.
How did the date go?
Great, and because we learned a lot about each other, and I was like, oh, I think you're into music in a different way to me, in that you can go and talk to those men over there in depth about what record labels something was on.
Yeah,
I'm not interested.
Okay.
So he's very like that, and I'm not it's funny. I'm not a completist in any way about things. I'm like that with films, TV series. I've still never seen the whole of the series of The Wire, even though it was one of my favourite shows ever. Because I just get to a point and I go, I've got it. I get what it's about. And I'm often about what is the feeling you get from something or what is their essence. And I go, all right, yeah, I like that. That's your thing. But I don't have to know everything about you.
No, I get that. We're on our Twitter page, we've got a kind of music page that we chat about stuff. And we're forever doing polls and stuff like that. But there's a real balance between the guys who kind of know everything. And it's fascinating. They give you some backstory that you have no idea about.
Yeah.
And people who just like the song, whatever the song happens to be. And I always think there's a place for both of them, and I don't see a point in music if everyone just likes the same stuff. What is the point?
And also I like the soap opera of it. Like I like reading books, about bands and times, things like Please Kill Me and stuff like that. Love that. Or also documentaries. I'll watch that because exactly that, like I say, just the soap opera and gossip of stuff I find interesting as well. But then other people want to go, well, what bass was he using at that time?
Yeah.
You can tell me if you want, but it's not going to enhance my pleasure of it.
It's mainly a man thing, I think, isn't it?
I
Probably.
don't know.
Quite
I hate to
shallow.
say it is, but it is.
Quite shallow, really. Quite shallow. Okay, what about a bucket gig in the past that you wish you'd been able to get to?
Oh, well, one recently. I mean, there was one way in the past, and I'd written a book, a sort of memoir, but more about my sister, and I looked up and I remembered this gig that I wasn't able to go to again because I was like 16 or something. I wasn't allowed, and it was in Leeds, and it was the first Futurama gig.
Okay.
And three of my friends did go in the car, and the bill was Pill were on, Susie and the Banshees, OMD were on, who I
Okay.
absolutely loved at the time,
Yeah,
certain ratio.
absolutely.
I mean, it was an amazing bill. And it was only when I looked it up that I went, oh, God, that's the bill that my mum said, you can't go.
Right.
And then as it was, they said their car broke down on the way back, and then they could only use second gear. And it was different times because they went all the way down the M1 in second gear, and they got stopped by the police. And one of them was covered in vomit. He was so drunk, and the police were just like, "We'll just stay in the stow lane, and off you go."
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
recently the gig, and this is the thing of, because I'm nearly always working Thursday, Friday, Saturdays as a comic. So that's why I'm trying to take some weekends off so I can get to see stuff. But I have to, book it really far in advance. And I was gigging in Liverpool, and I've become mates again through sort of social media and that, with guys from the farm. I met Carl first,
Okay.
Carl Hunter, and he's just a great sociable guy,
Yep.
gets on with anybody. And he was up in Edinburgh because his brother lives here. So we became friends with his brother, then friends with Carl. And then when I was gigging in Liverpool, he was like, oh, I'll take you around some bars, took me and my husband around bars, and then we met Pete as well. They
Okay.
came to comedy shows, and they were doing, the last time I was in Liverpool, they were doing because they've had quite a resurgence on the festival
have.
scene, the
That's right.
farm, and they're lovely lads, and lads, I think of them like lads. They were doing their first gig indoors in Liverpool for about 30 years.
Okay.
In a smallish venue, like 400. And of course, they're like, oh, you must come. And I'm like, well, I'm bloody gigging.
Yeah.
So my husband, when he was filming it, going, it's just the best. It's just the best. To see them in Liverpool with everyone singing all together now,
Yeah.
And it was a sort of size of venue, because I do like a smaller venue, and I always think music should be inside. So I was like, this is everything I would love. So I can't, so I couldn't go. So I've actually booked now. I'm going to see them. They're playing another nice small venue in Carlisle, the old fire station.
Yeah, I know that.
Which again,
Yeah.
I've done on tour, but they do music there. And it's a guy who's bought the building and is really enthusiastic for live events. So they're playing there. So I've booked a night off, and I'm going
Good.
to see them.
And
But it won't be the same because it's not in Liverpool, But
True.
Yeah.
How was your gig? How was your gig when the farm was on? Do you feel you were putting it all out that night, or were you distracted by?
Oh no, no, no,
You
yeah, no, you're
were still on it, were you?
Yeah, still,
Okay.
yeah. No, I'm used to going, oh, everybody else is having fun.
You've been breaking into altogether now, or anything like that?
No, I wasn't. And also, because even before I was in comedy, like I was in rockabilly bands for a little while, and then always working at night in like clubs and pubs or restaurants. So I've always sort of had a bit of that thing of like Saturday night is a work night,
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to now,
Yeah.
a little bit.
You play the guitar, don't you?
I played drums.
Drums, I thought it was
I
guitar.
don't now. I wouldn't
Right.
say now
Okay.
I play
Right.
drums. But it was funny. I was thinking about it. Like when I moved to London, and it was through B-52s, then the Cramps. I heard them, then got into sort of psychobilly, then more rockabilly. And I was and that was that time in London in the early 80s. There was just live music everywhere, every pub. And it's funny, then when I started doing comedy, a lot of those back rooms in pubs went, oh, this used to be a music venue.
Yeah.
Like the Greyhound on Fulham Palace Road, that used to be a music venue, became a comedy venue. There was lots of places. Dingwalls became Camden Jongleurs. And then a lot of those now that were comedy clubs are now gastro restaurants, part of them, But there was so much live music in the 80s then, and that's what you went out to. You
Yeah, it
went out
was.
and you
Yeah,
could see a couple of bands and cheap as well. And
yeah.
often, they might, because there was still that pub rock scene. So a lot of these bands, they might have been in their 40s and we were only in our 20s, but it was
Hmm.
just that, if they were more like, what's his name, Canvey Island, Dr. Feelgoody type,
Yeah,
garage,
yeah,
which certain of us in rockabilly scene like that kind of hard rock and roll as well. So you didn't think about what it was more. What were they doing? That
yeah.
that feel of it, and then
Yep.
going to ska bands and stuff as well. It was all over the place.
One of our
Yeah.
friends, John Welsh, John will love you. John's a huge rockabilly fan.
Oh, right, right, right.
And I'm sure he thinks he was in the Cramps. Maybe he was, I don't know, but
Yeah,
yeah, he absolutely adores that kind of genre,
yeah.
and he's forever sort of calling it out and stuff. So he'll be looking forward to having a listen to this.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah,
Glasgow was the same as London actually at that time.
yeah,
Glasgow it kind of still does really. We're quite lucky in Glasgow. There's still a lot of live music venues, but back in the early 80s, you literally could walk around any street and hit a gig,
yeah,
and you kind of took it for granted a little bit until it stopped being a thing, and then you're having to sort of travel a bit more, and it's more expensive, of course, now as well. So I always feel quite sorry for the kids coming through.
yeah.
Quite difficult to do that, both to play and to watch, you know.
And I think it was that thing that made it seem like you could do it. That's why I thought, well, I can't play
Yeah,
drums, but I could surely learn
yeah,
because it's just little bands all over the place. So you could be one of those
yeah.
as well,
Of course you could. Post-punk, you could do anything you want, couldn't you, really? And,
Yeah, yeah.
it's almost like you get skiffle, then you punk, and then all the other things just basically just get popping off the back of that. So,
Yeah, and it's sort of going
well done, you.
rather than just watching, go, I could do that. And I think that's why I was the same with comedy.
Yeah,
So I like this. Why don't I try and do it then?
yeah. And props to you for
But
doing
it's
that.
that,
I don't know how you do that at
but it's
all.
that attitude I do feel that came from that time
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you could
totally.
go, oh, you could give it a go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to a gig that was either a lot better or a lot worse than you thought it was going to be? Something that really surprised you or disappointed you, I
I
guess.
saw, yeah, you go and see sometimes, like my husband will look at something and he'll go, I think you'll like this band. And because, especially if it's like little venues. And I went to Sneaky Pete's in Edinburgh, which is a
Yeah,
nice sort of dive
that is,
bar-y
yeah.
venue. And it was a band called Arcs. I'd never heard of them.
Arcs. Don't know.
Arcs, ARXX,
Right.
and they are amazing. I think I maybe saw them 3 years ago, and it's just two women in there. Maybe I can't tell how old people are. I'll say they're young, late 20s, and the sound off them is incredible. But they're also really musical. Like they both have really good voices. The guitarist is amazing, and it's sort of punky driven, but they'll suddenly get a bit funky as
Right.
well with it. And I've since seen them go on to do well. Like I see them put up on
Mm.
social media, they're doing bigger and bigger venues and festivals. And I would say to anybody sort of our generation who I suppose likes that kind of any kind of music that I've been talking about, you will like them.
Okay.
I absolutely love them, and they've got some really lovely angry songs as well. But there's also always something melodic
The
in them.
melody. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think they're probably. And what was funny when we saw them, that one of them had lost a guitar, in transit sort of thing. And so she was having trouble tuning up. And when they talked, wasn't what I was expecting. They're sort of a little bit like this, like they might have horses. And I was like, oh. So I thought, oh, they're probably actually really musically trained,
Yeah.
but they happen to like things that are really thrashy and loud, but that's why things also have a melody. So
Yeah.
they were a big surprise. And then I saw, this was at a mate's 65th birthday party in London. He's Scottish, though. He's actually from Portobello, but moved down there. And it's a Jim Jones band that I
Okay.
didn't know that well, but they put together a set for his birthday,
Right.
and it was all covers. So it was great.
Yeah.
They did Velvet. So I remember him doing Spirit in the Sky.
Okay. Yeah.
Rolling Stones, did some Bowie, and what was great, it's a good venue. They do comedy there as well. My mate runs comedy there. Trades Hall in Walthamstow. So it's
Okay.
that
Don't know that
classic
one.
big like working man's club room
Yeah.
where there's also, we'll be doing bingo afterwards. Big stage, bar runs all along the side,
Yeah.
cheap drinks, and because it was his guy's birthday, what I really liked, and again, it's learning from a performer, he gave that 100%
Mm.
performance. There wasn't any holding back. We had Reckless Eric on before, actually,
Okay.
who
Yeah.
did
Very good.
acoustic.
Yeah.
Well, you can say that.
No, he's a
Wasn't really,
character, isn't
it
he?
wasn't, he's such a
Yeah.
character. And you go,
Yeah.
oh, everyone was very excited. There's Reckless Eric. Oh,
Yeah.
he's not really chosen a party set. But Jim Jones, 100%
Yeah.
commitment.
Smashed it.
We've rehearsed this. We know the songs. He had a woman on bass who didn't normally play with him, and she was amazing. And it was just that thing of 100% going for it. And then you could see everyone feeding off each other. He could see the more we were
Yeah.
enjoying it, the more he was giving to it. And it was just brilliant.
It was
And then
cracking.
another gig that didn't go how I thought it was going to be in Edinburgh because the venue had to change. It was Jess Malin,
Hmm.
and he was playing. It was either no, he was playing the Mash House, but it flooded. So we were queuing up, and they were going, "It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's flooded. The equipment's flooded. Can't use it. Power outages." But just next door is the Bell on Gel. So then they went, no, he's going to do the Bell on Gel, all go there, and
Yeah.
he'll, at least talk to people.
Yeah.
So he got on stage. So the guy had just snare drum and a hi-hat. And it was a guy, keyboards, but acoustic, and
Yeah.
Jess Malin. And he said, I can do it, some of it, but it'll have to be acoustic. And he was just working it out as he went along.
Yeah.
And of course, it was brilliant.
Of
It was
course. Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And he was going, God, wow, haven't done this for ages. Yeah. And
Yeah.
people were shouting out, no, it goes like this. And,
Yeah.
and then he ended up doing, like an hour and a half and stories in between, chatting about other disaster gigs that, came into his head from this and
Yeah.
stories. And it was absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it's
Because you've
gorgeous.
got that spontaneity, I guess, that,
Yeah,
as you say, it's great to see a band that have, rehearsed within an inch of their life and they smash it, but it's also
yeah.
great to know you're seeing something that probably nobody else is going to see, you
Exactly.
know?
And that he's still got the love and the will to want to do that and to see him working out how to make this work.
Yeah. And I've been lucky.
That
I've
was
been
great.
lucky enough to see Bruce Springsteen quite a few times live.
Yeah.
And I was quite late getting into Springsteen. I wasn't a big fan when I was young. And he plays a different gig every night.
Right.
Like every night, I don't think he's ever played the same gig twice. So although you'll spot check maybe half the set through like his
Yeah.
famous songs and stuff like that, he just goes off piece. He went through a stage where he basically did song requests for
Wow.
half the set, playing in
Yeah.
stadiums.
Yeah.
So difficult to kind of command that audience, but that's what keeps him and his band going is that challenge to be a bit of a jukebox.
Yeah.
And every time he does it, you can see that gives them their kind of mojo to then play Born to Run or whatever else they're going to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
balance between the two, I think, that works so well.
Yeah. That keeps him
I
alive in
think
doing
so.
it
Yeah.
and the band, because
Yeah.
that's fun then for the band, isn't it? And
Totally.
also
Yeah.
that he's always been that the band is important. He has amazing
Totally. Well, he does
players.
he
Yeah.
does these,
Yeah.
if you're lucky enough to be down in front, he does these audibles. So basically he just calls out songs and like gets a count of four in and away he goes.
Yeah.
Like back in the day when people did that. And I guess it's a real challenge for the band, but also great fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what's he playing type thing, I can't
Yes.
even hear it. So but I love that spontaneity when you hit a gig. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's lovely to see.
have you had tickets for a gig that you never got to?
I had tickets for a gig. I don't know. I suppose I thought the one with the farm recently was the one where I would have
Yeah.
liked to have been there, and then I couldn't be there.
It came out.
Um,
I can't remember how it came out. Somebody told us a story about it was like a gig they wanted to go to all their life, and then basically they forgot about it. And
oh,
I can't. It was one of the chats from ages ago. So we put it
yeah,
in because some of the answers have been really funny.
yeah,
But
yeah,
some people just
yeah,
somebody says I've never missed a gig. I couldn't do that. It would.
yeah. I suppose because I'm always like those, if I am going to a gig, I have taken the night off.
Yeah,
So unless like some amazing work offer comes in, I know that's it. Because it's rare for me to have those nights
yeah,
where I
totally.
can actually
Yeah,
go to something. Yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I forget them all the time. I'm afraid it must be age. What about mentioned earlier on about travelling around a lot? Missed any buses or trains home? Even stuck anywhere? Not able to get back?
I don't know. I mean, travel is so much part of my existence of trains, planes, driving. I would say in London, it's like you would often go, well, then we'll just walk,
Yeah, yeah,
because eventually you will get home. But it was more like as a teenager, sort of being out in the country of going, how are we going to get from here to there? Or because there's just no transport, but it was somebody would have a car.
yeah.
But what state were they in to be driving the car? Which you never thought about. I mean, a number of times you stopped, or I remember us going into a ditch,
Oh,
and the member going, "Oh yeah, because he'd been taking mushrooms, so it's probably not good that he drive." But it was country lane, so in a way we were safe, But
oh.
uh,
You,
yeah.
you shudder to think about it now, don't you?
Oh my God, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like your children and stuff, if they're,
Oh, absolutely. You wouldn't
you
have not let anybody do that then. But then you're fearless, aren't you? Yeah.
yeah. What about support acts then? So you mentioned seeing arts earlier on there. I don't know if they were a support or not, but any support acts that you've seen and you've thought, wow,
Well, do you know, recently, what was, and it was so joyful, went to see, it was at the Queen's Hall in Edinburgh, went to see From the Jam, because I wanted to
uh-huh,
see Bruce Foxton,
yep,
so he's not been well.
yep, that's right.
And so, love the Jam, love all Jam songs,
Me too,
fantastic.
me too.
But the support act was the Skids, Richard
Okay,
Jobson, and always sort of like the Skids, fine. But I wasn't thinking much about seeing them
uh-huh,
particularly,
yeah,
and they were amazing.
mm,
And Richard Jobson's fitness. I mean, just going, my God, he has trained for this. He
it
has
has,
really trained. Still doing that mad dancing, a really tight young band who are excited to be
yeah,
touring,
yeah,
really great sound. Richard Jobson absolutely delivering, and also to see the love from the crowd,
totally,
just
yeah.
full of these guys in their 60s. So I thought, no, you haven't trained. Stop dancing. You're going to have a heart attack. Like, this could be very dangerous. And it was
Yeah.
just amazing to see somebody still able to do it. Nice bit of chat and stories that he may have said before, but it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because he delivers it like he hasn't. And again, it was just that it's like what you were saying about Bruce Springsteen, delivering that feeling of spontaneity and that you're
Yeah.
still excited to do it.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't stop laughing when I did TV Stars
Uh-huh.
to hear 900 people shouting Albert Tatlock, I remember I thought, and I filmed that bit and I put it up, and I had friends in the States going, "What is this? What is this
Yeah.
Albert Tatlock thing?" I was going, "It's so hard to explain to you how happy that made me." And then what was funny then when From the Jam came on, who were great, and it's all the Jam songs,
Yeah.
but it was hard for them to follow that
Yeah.
energy. It
Yeah, I
really
can
was.
imagine. Yeah,
Yeah.
and also the Skids. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
Adamson isn't there, but Jobson
Yeah.
was the Skids
No.
really with
Yes.
Adamson.
Yes.
Whereas
Yeah. And
from
a
the
lot of local love. Yeah.
yeah, from the
Yeah.
Jam are a tribute band, if I can call them that.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not quite the same as seeing
Yeah.
the original band, albeit
Yes.
Foxon obviously is still
Yeah.
there.
And what
Um,
was funny as well, and I don't want to criticize them, but it was going, the Jam, those songs, and that was what you didn't feel with Richard Jobson.
yeah,
It needs an angry young man singing those songs.
or maybe, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that felt like what was sort of missing, but Jobson still had that feeling about him.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I do see Weller quite a lot still, and he's a kind of angry old man, if you
Yes,
want.
he is. Yes.
So he has still
He
got
could do
that
it.
attitude.
Absolutely.
Although he doesn't play that
Absolutely.
many older songs, but when he does it, he has a go at them. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, all a bit sad, obviously, with Rick Butler and what's happened the last
Yes, yes,
few
it
days.
is.
So,
Yeah.
uh, lucky
Yeah.
enough to meet them all back in the day. So
Oh,
I
fantastic.
know, so
Oh,
that's another story.
yeah.
Yeah, but they're great. Yeah, Skids, yeah, couldn't agree more. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Put your own performer hat on then. We always like to ask the guys that come on,
Oh.
which is a tough one. What would your favourite or best gig be as a performer?
Uh, it's a tricky one in stand up. I do remember when I was playing in the band, playing drums. It was doing it. I mean, and I really wasn't very good, but there was good people in the band.
Yeah,
Like the guitarist was really really good, and there was a woman on double bass, my friend Madeline. She was really good. But we played when we played the old Dingwalls because that was somewhere I went.
yeah,
So that felt like, oh, this is like proper,
yeah,
because otherwise it was sort of gigs we were putting on ourselves a bit, or you're very low down the bill on a rockabilly weekender or something. But doing that was like, oh, this is proper, yeah.
yeah,
But with stand-up comedy, it's hard because there's so many different types of gigs. Sometimes it's because you're in a big theatre and it's the
hmm
size and
hmm
you're going, oh, this is the
mm.
Palladium.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm only here because Jason Manford has asked me to be.
yeah,
So it's like you're enjoying it, but it's not really you, Joe. It's not
yeah.
about,
Understand. Yeah,
you're just on this thing because somebody has asked you to be. But then other times it's more just the feeling of gigs and venues. Like I always love doing the Comedy Store
mm.
in London just because it's got such a history of comedy in this country. So I always like doing that. And then I did quite a bit of comedy in America when I used to write on Graham Norton's show, and
Yeah,
we did a whole series filmed in New York. So we were in New York for 3 months, and I sort of went to stand-up gigs there, and then sort of asked, can I get on the bill? And it's a very different scene there because no one gets really paid.
yeah,
Everyone's just doing sort of shorter sets and trying to get noticed, trying to get a writing job, trying to make a name or things. And that was really interesting to do comedy there because the audience is much more sober, and they applaud at the end of jokes like it's a song, which is really weird for, we're like, what's that? And they go, oh, it's not really not like, I mean, you would very rarely get an applause break in a
yeah,
comedy club in Britain.
yeah, yeah.
But that was, and it sort of interrupts your rhythm as well. It's this. It's just, yeah, very
I
different.
like
So
that.
I don't know. There's too many gigs to say best gig, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
What about, if you don't mind me asking then, because we don't ask
Mm.
this, because I like speaking about good things about music because it's
Yeah.
such an amazing thing, right? But what about I call it a worst gig for want of a better word? Have you done a gig and thought, I've absolutely tanked there. It just didn't work, or
Oh, early on,
yeah,
loads of times, yeah. And it's a weird thing that I mean, I look back and I go, oh, you were terrible. But you sort of don't know it because you hear a few laughs and
right,
I mean, I was kind of hooked from the first gig I did, the first sort of 5 minutes, because some people laughed.
yeah,
And you're very full of adrenaline when you first do it. And you're also unaware of how frightened you should be because I didn't know how hard it was. I didn't know much about it.
yeah,
So at the beginning, a lot of gigs, and the worst one I remember, Belfast Empire, and I had. There's a lot going on with me going to Belfast because my family's from Northern Ireland, and my dad, they left in the 60s. And my dad said, oh, Belfast Empire. He grew up in Belfast. And he said, oh, I used to perform there as a kid. That's where we would do like school stuff.
yeah, yeah,
We did at the Belfast Empire. So I'm all thinking, oh, it's some sort of homecoming. And this was the mid 90s. So I'm very new in stand up.
hmm
This accent that I have is not very welcome by half of the people in the crowd. And it was compared by Paddy Kilty, who was amazing. His father had been
hmm
killed.
hmm
And so he compared amazingly, playing both sides off each other. You're both as bad as each other. But
yeah,
the references were so local.
yeah,
It'd be this bridge on this little B road. And you were like, oh my God. So I was really out of my depth. And people just started talking. over me completely. So the whole room was talking and I just had to get off stage. But then it wasn't enough. People wanted, and I remember someone coming up and going, "Do you want to know why you're so shite?" And I was like, oh God, people are going to come and tell me it's not enough that I've been shit. And just like wanting to go, I want to get out of here. And then like the comments going, "Oh, let's go for a drink." And we went for a drink. And of course there were people there who'd been at the gig and they wanted to come and tell me I was shite. So it was just never ending, But now I can see and go, well, I didn't have the chops to do it. I wasn't funny enough, but I also wasn't experienced enough to navigate, Yeah,
get that. And you've been back since and smashed it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Thanks for answering that.
You got a layer ghost. Yeah.
Totally. What about music festivals? You been to many?
Not a fan.
No.
Not a fan.
Fascinating question. We absolutely get this Marmite on music festivals from everyone. Love them or hate them.
I did Glastonbury comparing, like as a comedian. I did it, and I remember Pulp were playing. And I like Pulp. Who doesn't? Pulp. And just standing so far away and being outside and going, this isn't how music should be to me. Yeah. I think the only thing I enjoyed, the Orb were on very late at night, so you can stand far away and just see lights and that sort of, zone, get in the zone music, that sort of worked. But for an actual band, I was like, no, I want it to be preferably downstairs. I want to go down. I want to be dive bar-y. I don't want it to be really more than 1,000 people. It should be quite dark where you go, I don't really know what this room looks like, and if you turn the lights on, I'd probably be horrified. I like that sort of thing. Or old style theatre, like a Hammersmith Palais kind of a place.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Music festivals have absolutely divided the nation. So I think the guys that have loved them have been the ones who have maybe more immersed themselves in it.
Yeah.
They go for 2 or 3 days and it's almost the culture of the festival, not just
I know. See, and I
bands.
didn't like that because I was there for the days and I was just a bit like, oh, I'd really like to go into a room. I just want to go into it, and the weather was great. Like there was nothing like that. The only festivals I liked was when I was really into the rockabilly, and we would do rockabilly weekenders or any kind of weekender where they take over a holiday camp.
Yeah,
and you go, well, this makes perfect sense because again, you've got a great big showroom for dancing, seeing bands, and then your bed is 100 yards away in a chalet. Yeah. Ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're still very popular now. Those
and great
music weekends
for the holiday off season, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, it's probably saved a lot of them. It's it's really good. Okay then. So you mentioned about some bucket gigs earlier on. So is there any band or artist that you haven't seen that you would still like to see? I think you mentioned you're seeing the Farm.
Yes.
Is there anyone else that?
Yeah, I have, and this is definitely on a list. And it's October. I've got my tickets to see Patti Smith.
Right.
At the Palladium. She's doing the Horses album.
The Horses, 50 years, right?
Yeah, and with as much of the original band and that sound. It's the Palladium, but at the same time I was going, but you kind of want it because you go, I want to sit and really savor everything that's happening here.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, that'd be amazing. Because she's only doing like a handful of shows, I think, isn't she?
She's doing Dublin as well and somewhere else.
Yeah, nothing in Scotland, I don't think, at the moment.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's a shame. I don't know do you know Caroline Binney?
No.
You don't know Caroline's kind of one of our music friends, and she is the gig queen.
Right.
So she's a huge Patti Smith fan and the Velvets and all that ilk. So
good
pretty
taste.
sure Caroline will be there for sure.
Right. Yeah.
She's another Edinburgh fan. So.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So there's just so much to admire about her music, but also her choices. I think and the way she's run her career. She's a very principled woman.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be amazing. I'm not jealous at all with that one, Jo.
Yeah, I got that coming up because I am doing my thing of trying to make sure you go out. So I've also got tickets. I'm going to see Jar Wobbles back at Voodoo Rooms. They see him. He's always good chat, and I love the music. And who else am I seeing? Selector are coming. I'm going to see them.
With Pauline Black? Is she still?
Do you know, I don't even know.
Don't know.
I
Right.
don't even know. I just saw that and said to Stuart, I said, I'll book that,
Okay.
right? And I'll book the night off. And I said to a couple of friends as well. So I really don't even know.
Okay.
Funny enough, I thought about that the other day because I'd seen her somehow, and she almost looked like a Conservative MP, and she was wearing something terribly straight-laced and sensible looking.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, is that what she's like now? Oh,
I
I
think
wonder.
she still knocks it out.
Right, good,
I'm
good.
pretty sure she does. Yeah. Yeah. You can tell us
Yeah.
when you get there. Good.
And
Oh,
there's
that's a
some band who, again, I don't know, but a friend I sort of know from, like you say, you meet at gigs in
yeah.
Edinburgh, told me about a band called the Darts USA, which is an all-girl group that do
Right.
sort of 60s garage punky, who are coming to Edinburgh. So want to go and see them, check
Okay.
them. Yeah.
I'll send you a wee note offline. There's a band out just now called the Chords, Chords, which is
Uh-huh.
two sisters from,
Ah,
I think they're from Inverkip or somewhere in the West Coast,
all right.
19 and 20 or something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
Drummer and guitarist, and they're wonderful.
Ah, oh, that's the same as the Arcs then, that
Yeah,
sort of,
absolutely. I was
yeah.
thinking about them earlier, and they play like do you remember like C81, C86 tapes?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So all of that kind of lo-fi post-punk and Django and
Oh,
all sort of minute and a half songs, they all just they all bang through and they're
yeah,
wonderful. So
yeah.
if you get the chance to see them, I think
Oh,
you'd
I
like
will
them.
check them out.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
really cool. Really cool. Okay, who do you think you saw the most?
Yeah. Well, it's hard because my memory is so bad of back in the day and sort of in the 80s in London, there would have been bands on that sort of pub rock rockabilly scene that I would have seen a lot. But they were always changing their name, and there was
Yeah.
a lot of musicians moving from here to there. But I suppose at the moment, the band I've seen the most is the Stranglers,
Okay.
because I went to see them in
Yeah, yeah.
City Hall in Newcastle as well, which is a really nice venue. And there's also, I found there's something to me that's very heartwarming. And this, yeah, when everybody, and particularly because it's, blokes in their 60s, singing and hugging each other to
Yeah.
Always the Sun, I
Yeah.
just cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, and who would have thought, oh, hard stranglers. And,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I suppose and I would see them again, depending where it is,
Yeah.
because it's become a thing to go, oh, it'll be an interesting music venue. And because he lives in France, I think that's where they're doing some more,
That's right.
European kind of gigs.
Yeah.
So I would go, but again, I'm not, I've met people now. We were all sort of stranded on this sort of train platform in Spain, trying to work out where the venue was, and there was people there who'd seen them like 400 times and things.
Yeah. No,
That's not
that's
for
not
me.
me. No, no.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen I've seen Springsteen a lot, but you're talking, I don't know, 12, 15 times, something like that. And
yeah,
that's way too many for me normally. I've usually zoned out by that point. No, that's good. Have you seen
yeah,
Phil Cornwell live? Because he's still playing solo.
yeah. I
Yeah,
saw him in Aberdeen.
right.
Um, yeah,
Not,
not
no.
not
Okay,
for me.
all right, that's fine. I'm moving
Yeah.
on. What's your favourite live music venue?
Oh, now there's a lot, isn't there? And there's ones that I love just because they're still going,
Uh-huh.
and they're just, this is perfect. The Dublin Castle
Hmm.
Parkway, Camden, still going. And I went there when I was like 18, 19, and it's still the same,
Yeah,
still the same, still good bands, good musicians.
yeah,
And also, it was very funny to see a band there recently, and I went, oh, you used to be in the Bluberry Hellbellies, like years and years and years, and it's the same guy on the squeeze box. And you
yeah,
go, oh, it's incredible. Rock City Nottingham, still a good venue,
yeah.
still going. In Edinburgh, like I really like Sneaky Pete's and I like the Voodoo Rooms.
Hmm.
I like 100 Club in London, and I've sort of odd memories of all sorts of bands there, and also that mix that was around sort of in the 80s. I was there with the sort of rockabillys and psychobillies, and I don't know, can't remember who we'd gone to see. It might have been things like the Deltas, the Polecats, And then George Melley was on.
Yeah.
And he was just, and we were just kids, and we were like, he's amazing. And I think it was because he was like, I like everything that's a little bit naughty and dirty and sort of sexy. And,
Yeah,
just he
absolutely.
was
Yeah.
for everything and played and gave it 100%,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So yeah, so I wouldn't say any really big ones. Clooney in Newcastle is a nice venue as
Yeah.
well. And the Lead Mill, and I mention that because apparently Lead Mill in Sheffield has been
Sheffield.
given 3 months.
I heard that. They're doing some fundraising, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
I know Richard Hawley and some of the guys are doing some stuff. My son actually lives in Sheffield. So,
right.
yeah, he's been sort of keeping me posted on that. But yeah, that's a real worry, isn't it?
Yeah, and and I know that area well, and they do comedy there. And
They do, yeah.
there's funny enough, there's a comedy club near there where Richard Hawley always goes to the pub, the Lescar.
Yeah,
So I had thought, oh, I'm sure him and some other, Sheffield luminaries will do something if
you'd
they
hope so.
can.
You'd hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about your favourite ever gig then? If you can't give us a favourite venue, give us your favourite gig. One gig.
This would be a favourite gig because I would go again and again because it's just to get a groove on. And I would like to always take some people who had never seen them,
Okay.
Dreadzone,
Right.
and just go, you will just love it.
Yeah.
I can't describe what they do really, but you will just go and it's joyful and interesting. And I know I would enjoy it every single time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think last time I went to see them was at Islington Town Hall. And yeah, it's just great. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. I think that's the first recommendation we've had for them. So that's magic. And to finish then, what about one live album that we should all own a copy of?
Well, that's a hard one because I thought I was like, I'm not really a live album person.
Okay.
And I think I've got a Stranglers one, but again, I like it because I like hearing everyone singing along to Always the Sun.
Yeah.
And I do remember, but only I've heard it because my husband has played it to me, Alex Harvey live.
Oh, yeah.
And I go, well, that's fun. And that,
Mm.
because we're like, well, this is a showman. I should learn from this man. So I think that's great. But I would say I'm not a live
Okay.
album person because I think of it as this is the annoying stuff that happens at gigs. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear you all singing along and clapping over the intro that I want to hear. So, yeah, so I
Yeah.
probably won't recommend one.
Okay, that's fine. It's your podcast, so okay. Well, that's us. That's all our questions rattled through there. So, how was that? Was it okay?
Oh, brilliant. Good. I hope it was good for everybody. Yeah.
That was great fun. Yeah, thoroughly
No, it's
enjoyable.
good. And it's good that music's still moving. Like a lot of, but I've had this conversation with quite a few people that some of the gigs you've enjoyed recently, like I went to see The Doors Alive where they do that out and you go, this is amazing. But if
Yeah,
you'd said to me 20 years ago, you're going to go and see covers bands, I'd go,
yeah,
me? Never,
yeah,
But they're great musicians doing
they
great
are.
music and they've picked, a good time. And I went to see Holy Holy, that band that was put together, Woody
The
Woodmanson,
Bowie and
doing, yeah,
Glenn Gregory, I think, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, singing, who was fantastic. And I'd love
amazing.
to have him
Yeah,
17. So
yeah,
that was, so the interesting things like that, you're like, oh, didn't know that was going to happen in the
yeah.
future.
I'd agree with
Yeah.
that. We were lucky enough to have Martin Ware on as a guest a while back,
Oh,
and
wow.
some of his stories were
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
fascinating. You can imagine from that early 80s
yeah.
period.
Oh my God, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I think we had to edit a few out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what have you got coming up, sort of spring, summertime? Are you busy?
Well, that'll be getting ready for the Edinburgh Festival.
Of
Putting the
course.
show together now, doing lots of little gigs to try to get the material worked up and write stuff, stuff that I think's funny, and then you do it in front of people and go, "Oh, really? No, just
Yeah.
me. Okay, how about this?" So, it'll
Yeah.
be Edinburgh Festival. I'll be doing the Stand Comedy Club where I do. That's where I've sort of done for the last sort of 15 years, really. They've got a good ethos there. So I'll do there. I'll be there 7:30. My show is called Bad Mood Rising,
Okay.
even though I'm very against puns, but I
Yeah.
thought, oh no, I like
Yeah,
that.
it's a
So we're
pun.
doing that. And the paperback for my book, The Funny Thing About Death, is
Yep.
coming out in June.
Yep.
So I'm not quite sure what I'm doing to sort of try to sell that because that's all the money from that is going to Macmillan Cancer
Oh,
Support.
okay, lovely.
Because it's about my sister
You
who
and your
died of
sister, yeah,
cancer.
yeah,
But it's also a lot of it is about the times we're talking
of
about, sort of
course,
70s,
70s,
80s.
80s, yeah.
She's older than me, had moved to London before me, and sort of, yeah, so a lot of it is about that, just growing up and making silly choices in life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's growing up, isn't it? That's what you
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Well, you're
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
busy then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Well,
That's good. Yeah.
hopefully I can get over to a show and
Oh, do
this
please get
that'll
in
be
touch.
lovely.
I'd love
Oh
that.
yeah,
That'd be
that'd be
brilliant.
magic.
It'd be nice to
Magic.
meet properly. Yes. Yeah.
Totally. All right. Well, Jo Caulfield, that was live music in me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.